The kitchen floor was cold through my jeans. I had been scrubbing the grout between the tiles for 40 minutes. The grout was white when my grandfather had laid those tiles 30 years ago. It had gone gray over time, and no matter how hard I scrubbed, it never went fully white again. I scrubbed it anyway, because Aunt Dorothy had told me to, and because in that house, what Aunt Dorothy said was what happened. My name is Emily. I am 27 years old. I had been living with my aunt and uncle since I was 19. 8 years. I moved in after my parents separated, and the family home was sold, and there was nowhere else to go. My father's sister Dorothy and her husband Frank had offered. They had a large house, plenty of room. "You are family," they said. "Stay as long as you need." I stayed. What started as a spare bedroom became something else over time. Gradually, the way things shift gradually when you are living inside them and cannot see the full shape from where you are standing. By the time I was 21, I was cooking 4 nights a week. By 23, I was doing the weekly grocery run and managing the household schedule. By 25, I was cleaning the entire house every Saturday, mourning and maintaining the garden, and driving Dorothy to her appointments because her back made it difficult to drive long distances. Nobody asked me to do any of these things formally. Nobody paid me for any of them either. It just accumulated, task by task, year by year, until the shape of my life in that house was the shape of a person who served the people around her and was grateful for the roof above her head and did not ask questions about what she was owed. I did not ask questions. Dorothy and Frank had 2 children, cousins Marcus and Julie, both older than me, both with their own apartments in the city. They came for Sunday dinners and holidays and birthdays. They kissed Dorothy on the cheek and shook Frank's hand and ate the food I had cooked and left without helping clean up. Once Marcus looked at me across the table and said, "Emily, you are so good at this. You should have been a chef." I smiled and said thank you and cleared his plate. My grandfather Thomas had died 6 years earlier. He had been a quiet man, careful with money. He had built a small business in his working years and sold it before he retired and invested the proceeds in property. He owned the family house Dorothy and Frank lived in. He owned a commercial property on Millfield Road that had been leased to a series of businesses over the years. He owned a savings account that had been building interest for 2 decades. When he died, there was a will. I was told the will left everything to his children. My father and Dorothy split the estate between them. My father took his share. Dorothy and Frank took theirs. That was what I was told. I had no reason to doubt it. I was 21 years old and grieving and living in Dorothy's house and trusting the people around me to tell me the truth about things that were adult and legal and complicated. I scrubbed the kitchen floor and I trusted them. On a Tuesday morning in March, I was on my knees on that same kitchen floor when the letter slot in the front door opened and a small stack of mail fell onto the hallway tiles. I got up. I walked to the hallway. I picked up the mail. 3 envelopes for Dorothy, 1 for Frank, and 1 with my name on it. My full name, Emily Catherine Harmon. The return address was the county probate court. I stood in the hallway in my rubber gloves and I opened it. It was a standard notification letter. 1 page, official language. It informed me that as a named beneficiary of the estate of Thomas Gerald Harmon, I was required to be notified upon the expiry of the estate's 7-year holding period. It listed the assets of the estate as recorded at the time of probate. It invited me to contact the court with any questions regarding my entitlement. I read it 3 times. Named beneficiary. My grandfather had named me in his will. I looked at the list of assets. The family house, the commercial property on Millfield Road, the savings account. All listed. All with values recorded at time of probate, and next to each asset a distribution note. The distribution note said equal division between all named beneficiaries. I was a named beneficiary. I sat down on the hallway floor, still in my rubber gloves, and I read the letter a 4th time. Dorothy came downstairs 20 minutes later. She stopped when she saw me sitting on the floor with the letter in my hands. "What is that?" she said. "A letter from the probate court," I said, "about grandfather's estate." Her face did not change. That was the thing I noticed first. It did not change at all. No surprise, no confusion. She had known. "Give me that," she said. She held out her hand. I stood up. "No," I said. It was the first time in 6 years I had said no to Dorothy in her own hallway. She stared at me. I went upstairs. I closed my bedroom door. I took a photograph of the letter on my phone. Then I sat on the edge of my bed and I thought about 6 years. The kitchen floor. The grocery runs. The Saturday mornings. Marcus saying you should have been a chef. The Sunday dinners. The plates I cleared without anyone asking me to. I thought about the commercial property on Millfield Road. I thought about equal division between all named beneficiaries. I called a friend from university, a woman named Catherine who had studied law and was now working at a small firm in the city. I explained the situation. She was quiet for a long moment. "Emily," she said, "send me a photograph of that letter right now." I sent it. She called back 20 minutes later. "This is a legitimate probate notification," she said. "Your grandfather named you as a direct beneficiary. Not through your father. Directly. By name. The estate should have been distributed to you 6 years ago, when probate was granted." "It wasn't," I said. "No," she said. "It was not. Which means the distribution did not follow the will. That is a serious legal matter. I need to pull the full probate records. Can you come to my office tomorrow morning?" "I will be there," I said. I came downstairs that evening. Dorothy was in the sitting room. Frank was beside her. They had been waiting. "We need to talk about that letter," Dorothy said. "I know," I said. I sat down across from them. "Your grandfather wanted to include you," Dorothy said. "But the estate was complicated. There were costs, legal fees. The property needed maintenance. We used the income to cover the running costs of everything. For 6 years," I said. She folded her hands in her lap. "You have been living here rent-free," she said. "You have been fed and housed and supported. That is your share." I looked at her. "I cooked your food," I said. "I cleaned your house. I drove you to your appointments. I managed your household for 6 years. That was not a gift, Dorothy. That was labor. And I did it while you were drawing income from a property that was partially mine." Frank started to speak. "Do not," I said. I stood up. "My attorney will be in contact," I said. I went upstairs and I packed a bag. I called Catherine and asked if I could stay at her apartment for a few days. She said yes without asking why. I left that night. Catherine pulled the full probate records the next morning. What she found took her the better part of 2 days to fully document. My grandfather's will had been explicit. Equal distribution between his son, my father, his daughter Dorothy, and his granddaughter Emily. 3 equal shares. Each clearly named. The probate had been granted with Dorothy listed as executor. Dorothy had distributed the estate to herself and my father only. My share had been absorbed into the general estate management costs on paper, a series of administrative fees and maintenance, charges that had been logged against my portion of the estate until it appeared on paper. To have been consumed entirely, it had not been consumed. The commercial property on Millfield Road had been generating rental income for 6 years. My share of that income was documented. The savings account had continued to accumulate interest. My share of that was documented too. Catherine put the full figure on a spreadsheet and called me into her office. She turned the screen toward me. I looked at the number. My share of the estate, including 6 years of withheld rental income and interest, accumulation came to $340,000. I sat very still. $340,000. I had scrubbed that kitchen floor for 6 years for $340,000 that was sitting in an estate account with my name on it. Catherine filed the legal challenge the following week. The probate court reviewed the original will against the distribution records. Dorothy hired an attorney who argued the administrative fees had been legitimate and properly documented. Catherine responded with a forensic accounting report showing the fees had been applied exclusively against my share of the estate, while Dorothy and my father's shares had been distributed in full within 8 months of probate being granted. The court ruled in my favor. Full distribution of my withheld share, 6 years of rental income, Accrued interest. Legal costs covered by the estate. Dorothy called me the day after the ruling. Her voice was controlled. Very careful. I hope you understand, she said, that we took care of you for 6 years. That has to count for something. I thought about the kitchen floor. The white grout that never went fully white again no matter how hard I scrubbed it. It counted for exactly what it was worth, I said, which was nothing. I hung up. I have my own apartment now. 2nd floor. A small kitchen with clean white tiles I chose myself. I do not scrub the grout. When it gets dirty, I replace it. I learned that from 6 years of scrubbing someone else's floor. Some things cannot be restored to what they were. You replace them and start again. If stories like this speak to you, hit subscribe. A new one comes every day. My grandfather named me in his will when I was 21 years old. I did not know for 6 years, but he knew. He sat across from a lawyer and said her name out loud and made it official. He saw me even when no one else in that family did. I think about that sometimes. It is enough. If this story stayed with you, hit subscribe. There is a new one waiting for you tomorrow.